People listen to experts, but consistently buy from leaders. You need to know this, and you also need to know what constitutes a leader. How do you position yourself as a leader in the mind of your prospect? Well, one important way that you do this is that you bring a sense of order. Experts can have a way of complicating and bringing complexity. Leaders bring a sense of clarity and order. It's what we look to leaders for. In this episode, I'm going to share one super important type of order that you need to bring to your business ecosystem in order to attract really amazing customers and clients. Let's dive in.
So here's the question. In a world where the rules of business have been written by men, how do women entrepreneurs like us, women who want to make millions of dollars and impact millions of lives, how do we create enormous success on our terms? That's the question, and this show explores the answers. Welcome to Power Presence Position. I'm your host, Eleanor Beaton, and I'm on a mission to double the number of women entrepreneurs who generate over $1 million per year in annual revenue. I'm an award-winning entrepreneur, author, and leadership coach. I'm a wife, mom of 2 boys, and I'm the CEO of a 7-figure business. Stick around because on this show, you'll learn how to think, communicate, and get paid like a 7-figure CEO. Let's go.
Hello, my fierce friends. This is Power Presence Position, episode number 425, Buyer Discipline. So I'm really delighted to be here with you today. This morning, as I'm recording this, I'm actually feeling amazing. And if you've been following the podcast, you'll know that has not necessarily been the case each and every day for the last month or so. In fact, in the last kind of 6 weeks, I just have not been feeling 100%. I would say I've been feeling about 90%, which is interesting because if you read The Economist like I do, all of the pundits predict we're going to be at about a 90% economy for some time. Well, I am feeling at a 90% Eleanor. And yeah, I had some kind of tough experiences in September. That happens sometimes, but normally I have like a 2-day bounce back. But lately, I have not had that 2-day bounce back. And I was out for a walk the other day listening to Brene Brown's podcast, and she was talking about how she had been feeling, she'd been really struggling lately and had been feeling like when she gets out of bed, each of her feet weighs like 40 pounds. And I can't tell you how good I felt to hear her say that. And I'm thinking about when my dad used to tell me that misery loved company. You know what? It does in the best way possible. I felt, as I was listening to her show and she was talking about just how she was feeling and that things had been really tough. And it really opened something up for me to hear this go-getter, baller, brilliant woman that I admire so much talking about struggling. And I think this is so critical for us to do as women. There's such a cult of perfection around how we present ourselves. And I also think that there's this false belief that just because you've reached certain milestones, you don't experience days or weeks or potentially even months when you don't feel good. So the last thing I want to do is perpetuate that destructive myth in any way. So I want to let you know, I have been feeling 90%. Normally I have a 2-day bounce back. I have been dragging for weeks, really having to do a lot of sort of self-coaching and talking to myself. A lot of the things that I normally do to make myself feel 100%, again, they're making me feel about 80%. So I'll give you an example. The other day I went out for a walk. And typically when I go for a walk, it fixes everything. So I go for a walk. The first 20 minutes, I feel amazing. By the time I finish my walk, I'm really not feeling awesome again. And I was laughing over this with one of my clients because she was talking about how she had been dragging. So if this is you, this is really a way of me saying you are not alone. It's okay to be dragging. It is okay to not be feeling great. Things are really hard right now for so many people, including high achievers. And so cut yourself some slack, right? Cut yourself some slack. And go check out Brene Brown's podcast where she talks about RBG. I can't remember what episode it is, but she talks about RBG and surge capacity. And I read an article on medium.com that's called "You Have Depleted Your Surge Capacity. That's Why You Feel Awful." I found that article really helpful too. We are well over 6 months into this global pandemic. A lot of places are starting to shut down again. We know that restrictions are in place. That's just what it is. It's just hard. And yes, we must stay optimistic, especially as entrepreneurs. And yes, it's also hard. Okay? I just wanted to really lay that out and let you know that I'm with you and that we don't have to be perfect all the time and that life is really, it's half and half. Sometimes you feel amazing, sometimes you don't, and your external circumstances do not change that. So yeah, that was actually one of the biggest things for me. I always used to think that as an entrepreneur, this is an aside, I hope you're okay with it, but I always used to think as an entrepreneur that a lot of the reasons that things were so hard is because I was really trying to get my business established. Well, I did that. For me, it was always, and I talk about this a lot, I've been talking about this a lot more just because I think it's so important to have a cash reserve and to really be disciplined to build one up. So I have a really healthy one for the business right now and have had it in place for some time. And I used to think that once I had a cash reserve like that, all my problems would go away. And it's so funny. That's not the case. I still have days where I don't feel good. I still have days where I feel scared. I still have days where I worry. I still get frustrated with myself. Anyway, I think it's important for us to be open about these kinds of things. I hope this is useful to you. If it is, if this kind of openness is helpful, I would so love if you would send me a message on Instagram to let me know. I'm just here kind of talking to you, and it's really nice to be able to have that be a two-way conversation. But let me know if this kind of openness and honesty is useful to you. I think one of the reasons why sometimes we don't talk about it is because we don't want to, quote unquote, bring people down. It's called bypassing. But anyway, speaking of amazing women entrepreneurs, I want to thank Judy Obersi. She is one of the co-founders of Habit Studio. You guys should check them out. I've talked about them before on the podcast. She left us a 5-star review called She Rocks. That's the name of the review. I have loved Eleanor's podcast from the very beginning, and both my mindset and business continue to grow alongside each episode. I can't thank you enough, Eleanor. Every time you cover a new topic, my brain asks, really? That never occurred to me, and I so needed to know that. Thank you for being so generous with sharing of knowledge and wisdom. Thank you, Miss Judy. I so appreciate it. Judy is a client inside our incubator program. Just an incredible entrepreneur with her business partner, Lori. Check them out on Instagram, Habit Studio. They just do these gorgeous, gorgeous renovations. So let's bring it back to the fact that leaders bring order. Right? Experts can bring a lot of complexity. They know a lot. A lot of us are experts. But if you really want to move into leader status in your industry, it's really about bringing a sense of order and clarity. And you've probably heard me talk about the fact that the confused mind can't buy. And many of you are confused yourselves. And so you are continuously and consistently unwittingly confusing your customers. So we need to cut that out. We need to stop that. How do you stop that? Well, when you talk to elite marketers, they all understand that messaging is the single most important element in lead generation and sales conversion. And until you acquire a customer, you really can't start working your magic and doing your deep work with them. So in order to position yourself as a leader and bring clarity and discipline, your message must be on point. And in all of the work that we do inside the Power Presence Position Business Accelerator, inside the incubator, we do a lot of work on people's messaging because it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. And the consistent thing I'm seeing is that you are talking to too many people. I can remember one of my favorite movies for years was this really hilarious movie called Thank You for Smoking. And it was about this guy who was a lobbyist for the tobacco industry. And it was just so funny. And in the opening sequence of the movie, he's talking about himself and we're setting up the character. And he says that he has a BA in kicking ass and taking names. And that has stuck with me so much. Like when I see a real baller out there or somebody I really admire, under my breath, I'll say to myself, oh yeah, she kicks ass and takes names. But let's focus on taking names, because you guys are talking to target audiences, which is brutal, by the way. Because let's think about an audience. Let's think about a Taylor Swift audience and all the millions and legions of different people who maybe the only thing they have in common is Taylor Swift. If your marketing is talking to an audience, it already failed. It's already not powerful enough. You need to talk to a person. You need to name names, like literally name names. When people ask me who my ideal client is, I start talking about names, right? Not all the demographics. Demographics are what experts talk about. Names are what leaders talk about. Think about it. Like think about the best leader you've ever met. They make you feel like you're the only person in the room. They have this ability to connect with you as a person. That's what allows them to have the influence that they have. That's what allows them to build the bond with you. They're not looking out about who else is in the room. No, they're looking at you. That is the difference. When you're marketing like a leader, that's what you're doing. When you're marketing like an expert, you're scanning the crowd, you're playing the field. Right? So you need to start really focusing on having some buyer discipline here. Think about one person. You know, it's interesting. I was talking to a woman recently. She's a leadership consultant. She's been in the game for some time. She's got a 6-figure business just selling consulting. Please, that's amazing. Like, good job. But I'm talking to those of you who are ready. You're tired of the deliverables. You're tired of constant customization of contracts. You're tired of impacting people 5 at a time. You want to start impacting hundreds and thousands at a time. That's your dream. You want to try to move into leveraged or group programs. So this woman has been trying to do it for about 18 months. It just hasn't popped yet. She's not getting the traction that she wants. And it's because her messaging is so general. She's speaking to a lot of different people. And because of that, she's speaking to nobody. You've got to cut through the clutter. And the best way to cut through the clutter is to name names, to call people by their name. So does that mean I'm going to dedicate this podcast and start talking to like one person named Carrie? Not necessarily, but in my mind, I am literally talking to one person right now, one person. And so if you are connected with what I'm saying, if I'm speaking your language, it's because I'm talking to you, right? So you've heard this idea that if you're trying to speak to everybody, you're speaking to nobody. And like so many of the most important fundamental aspects of business growth and marketing, 80% of people out there will gloss over it. And you know, this is going to sound so heavy-handed and competitive, but I love the 80% who gloss over stuff because it just leaves so much more room for the rest of us who are humble and are willing to do the work. Right? I'm like, gloss over it, y'all, all day long. Meanwhile, my homies, my amazing women entrepreneurs who are humble, who are committed, who are dedicated, who understand that by doing a great job with customer acquisition, it means you can really impact people. It means you can build up a cash reserve. It means that you can create all kinds of opportunities and recirculate that wealth and all of that good stuff. We will go out and take the business from the rest of the business owners out there who are going to gloss over the fact that when you're trying to talk to everybody, you're talking to nobody. And I want you to think about that, right? You have amazing work. It is meant to get out into the hands of a lot of people, and you need to give it every opportunity you can. And right now, your failure to talk to one person is hurting it. So it's really, really time to address that because you're glossing over that truth that when you're speaking to everyone, you're speaking to nobody. Your competitors are able, you're opening up the door to let them take your clients. Now, I know talking about open competition in this way is sometimes a little harder for women. It's not accepted. One of our clients, Dr. Amber Teichner, this is her area of expertise. It's fascinating. And I've been really kind of picking up some interesting stuff from hearing her. Go check out her work. But what I'm trying to say here is it's the reality, and we need to think about this. When you are talking to everybody, you are positioning yourself not just as one of these sort of guru experts, but you're positioning yourself as a dilettante, a playboy, a playgirl who's just playing the field, right? Seeing what shakes out. No, that's not leadership, right? Not at all. Your business, your great work deserves so much better than that. Your buyers want you to put a ring on it. They want your commitment. They want to be called forth by their names. And in order to do that, you need to inject some buyer discipline. Until you do this, your copy, which is your message, which is the most important aspect of sales conversion, it's going to wilt on the vine. It's going to be general. It's going to be forgettable. Okay. Now, I know this is hard to do. I understand it. Again, it's hard to read the label when you're inside the bottle. But this level of focus on your messaging, getting message clarity, niche clarity, offer clarity, to really understand how to position this effectively is super important. And if you're trying to get out there with your offers, you're not getting the traction you want, you just feel like pulling your hair out. You're like, I'm so smart. Why am I not getting this? It probably comes down to the very fundamentals of your messaging. It almost always does. Talk to any elite level marketers out there, and that is the X factor again and again and again. The most fancy funnel in the world will not make up for a poor message or an unfocused message. You've got to inject some buyer discipline. So this is the work that we do better than anybody. So if this is something that you really want some support with, I strongly encourage you to come talk to us. Check out the Power Presence Position Business Accelerator. How do you do that? So you can send me a message on Instagram, or you can go to powerpresenceposition.com. That's where you can sign up for a webinar where I walk through buyer discipline in the form of really identifying your 7-figure niche. And then I lay out the details of the program. So powerpresenceposition.com, go there, sign up. And you can, first of all, you're going to get an amazing training on niching down and my story sort of behind the scenes of how I niche down. But you are also going to really learn more about how we do this work with people, this fundamental, superbly important work that is the foundation of everything else. And you can tell instantly who has done this work and who has not. All right, my friend, I hope this was useful to you. If you found this podcast useful, I would so appreciate if you would share it on social, tell somebody about it, or leave us a review. Just take a small action to show your appreciation. I would really appreciate it. It helps me get this show out as a free resource to really help as many women entrepreneurs out there as we can. All right. I will see you next week, same bat time, same bat place. Take it easy on yourselves. Be so kind to yourselves. Give yourselves a break. That's what I'm doing. I'm really relaxing my expectations of myself. And you know what? It's helping. It's still hard, but it's helping. Okay, Queen, have a good one. We'll talk to you next week. Today's episode of Power Presence Position is sponsored by the podcast I'm a Millionaire, So Now What? With Colleen O'Connell Campbell. Colleen O'Connell Campbell is a brilliant financial advisor for entrepreneurs. She is a longtime client, and her show, I'm a Millionaire, So Now What? Covers inspirational stories and practical advice for self-made millionaires in the making. And as a woman entrepreneur, she really understands the work of building wealth, of retaining wealth, and of investing wealth in a way that is meaningful to you. Go check out the show.
Thank you for listening to Power Presence Position, your message, your mission, your millions. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of life's greatest pleasures is enriching conversation with intelligent, insightful women entrepreneurs who are unapologetic about their ambition. If this is you, then you need to join the Power Presence Position community of practice. This party is happening over on Facebook. You can access it by going to eleanorbeaton.com/community. Join us over there where you can access our book club, happy hours, executive roundtables where we talk about the issues that matter most to women entrepreneurs. This is a high-level conversation, the best conversation about women entrepreneurship on the internet, Join us at eleanorbeaton.com/community.